Hey guys, this is Holly at Thornatiska, and I'm so excited because today we're talking about plants, one of my favorite things ever. And so I've got some beautiful plants here with me today, beautiful flowers that I've collected for today. But what we're going to do is actually talk about what makes a plant, and then how we actually name them or classify them. So when you think of a plant, what do you think of? Do you think of trees or flowers or shrubs or vines or ferns or grasses or mosses and so much more? There's just tons and tons of plants. Maybe you think of fruits and vegetables, but they're everywhere and they do so many things for us. So we're going to actually talk about what makes those things. So for the love of botany, which is the study of plants, by the way. So what makes a plant a plant? So it's a living organism. It's eukaryotic and multicellular, which all that means is it has multiple cells, and then it has a nucleus that is bound by organelles. So it has a rigid cell wall, which is really cool because that's actually what makes it not jello and just a blob. It gives it structure. And then most of them have a cuticle, which is that outer skin that helps it retain moisture and kind of protects it. And it's kind of like a skin almost. And then another thing that makes them a plant is that they are autotrophic, which just means that they can feed themselves. And most plants do this by photosynthesis. And we'll talk a little bit about that more later. And then also they fall under the kingdom of Plantae. So if you were given the task of how to categorize all of the plants, or how to name the plants even, but how to sort them and classify them, how would you do that? So I have a tasty little example here. I've got some candy. So would you split your candy by color? Like in pulling all of the reds and purples and blues out, or would you sort it by taste? You could pull the Tootsie Rolls out, you could pull the peppermints out, and you put all the fruit things together. Would you do it by shape so that you've got some squares that are your starburst here, and then gobstoppers would be round? Would you do it by color, the red and white together? But you can actually see that these are the same taste and they are the same colors, but they don't have the same shape. So what would you do if you were talking about plants? Well, it's a good thing. There is a guy named Linnaeus who came up with a way to categorize plants. Now that picture right there looks a little scary because there are over 280,000 species of plants and counting. But he's actually a long time ago decided that he would make a way that we could actually divide them up into groups. And just a super cool guy. So back in the 1700s, Linnaeus actually, before he was 5 years old, he had his own garden. Him and his dad, they loved to garden. And his dad taught him all about plants. And so what he actually did is he loved it. He learned about it when he didn't have to learn about it. When he was in school, he was even not your straight A student because he was so much more interested in botany rather than math or science or language or history or anything like that. So a lot of his teachers didn't think he was going very far. But there was this one teacher, and he was actually a medical doctor, and he saw the potential that Linnaeus had on the medical world because of his love of botany, because there were so many medicines that came from plants. So he encouraged him to become a medical doctor. Well, Linnaeus started out and he went to a university, and he picked the university that he thought had the best botany program. Well, it turns out he was teaching his professors. He knew way more than they did. So they actually talked him into teaching other students. And he taught them all about botany, but at the same time, he was also commissioned to go out into new lands and discover new species for Sweden. And so around this time, he saw all the different plants and he saw all these different things. And there were already people that were already scientists that were trying to name these plants and stuff, but they gave them these long descriptive names so that they could try to divide them among, like, so that this is purple. Well, not all of them are purple, so they gave them these long names. But not only that, they gave them different names in different translations in different languages. So if you were a scientist in the Americas, then you had, American names. If you were a scientist in Sweden, you had Swedish names. In Spain, you had Spanish. It's just all kinds of stuff. So he did not like that time, but he couldn't do anything about it. But wait, because he didn't have the money or the reputation to actually do something about it. He had a good idea, but he just had to sit and wait. While he was out on these discoveries and these missions, he actually was working with a lot of other scientists. And he told them about his idea, and they were like, dude, that's a good idea. And so he told pretty much every scientist that he worked with about it. Well, the more he told, the more reputation he got, and the more money he got, because he was really good at this game, and he went on more and more expeditions. So he actually ended up at that time, he decided that he would actually make a book. Now, this book was called Systema Natura, and it started out with 12 pages. Just 12 pages he just put down. And he only categorized things into 3 categories. He had rocks, and he had animals, and he had plants. And that was it. That's the only 3 things that he'd categorized. But actually he was way ahead of his time. He was actually called the father of taxonomy because he came up with the way that we still use to classify plants and animals. So like I said, he had 12 pages in his first edition of Systema Natura. Well, at the end of his life, he actually had 2,400 pages, and that was 12 editions later. He had added that many things. A lot of people caught on. Now, here's the reason that it worked. He actually gave it a Latin name, which at the time, the Latin language was dead. Nobody used it anymore. But it was the base for a lot of other languages. So everybody could still understand that everybody was talking about the same thing because it was a Latin name. It wasn't an American or a Spanish or anything like that. So after he made his Systema Natura, he kept adding to it. They did not have internet or any kind of data storage back then. It was the old school where he just had page after page, and he would add all of this information, and he added drawings and all kinds of stuff. So definitely keep a journal if you can. And I'm encouraging you to go out and find what we are talking about in the plant videos. So back to the way that he actually broke it down. So everything was in the plant kingdom. So move the rocks and the animals to the side. We're just talking about plants. Then he actually gave it, he broke it down into groups. So it was kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And then he gave the name, that Latin name, is called binomial nomenclature, and all that means is a 2-term naming system. But he would give it a genus and a species. So you can see on this picture the Rosa genus, and then there's Rosa gallica. And so that's for the moss rose, because there's tons of roses. So one of the other ways that that you can actually look at the way that things are divided is by vascular plants and non-vascular plants. Now there is a whole lot more types of vascular plants than non-vascular plants. So let's talk about our non-vascular plants first. So this is my example of a non-vascular plant, and this is actually a moss. And so this is your mosses and your hornworts and your liverworts. And so the only one that I could actually find to bring to you today was the mosses, but you see this growing everywhere on trees, and it's really cool. It does not have a deep root system. You can actually see it grows on the tree. You can see a lot of times it's on the tree roots that are sticking up, or pavement surfaces that stay moist. But it actually has these little fibrous, surface. That would be called roots, but it actually transfers water and nutrients from cell to cell. So it doesn't have that tall structure like your stems and your leaves and stuff like that. So when we're talking about a vascular plant versus a non-vascular plant, this one right here, this moss, is going to be small in size because it doesn't have the deep root system to make it grow taller and stronger. It doesn't have a well-developed system. You can't see the veins in here like you can in leaves and stuff like that. And then it obtains nutrients from the environment and distributes it from cell to cell, like we talked about. Now, your vascular plants, I'm going to pull this one up to show you. So this is one of my favorite vascular plants because you can actually see, it's called the nerve plant, and you can see those different little the lines in there. That's how it transports water and nutrients to the other parts of the plant. Now, how does it get that in the first place? Definitely by the root system. So they do grow really, really tall. All of your trees are going to be vascular because they grow super tall. They're well-developed transportation. So one of the things that you can try at home, this is probably not going to work as fast here. It takes a day or so. But you can actually take some water at home and then put some food coloring in it. We put some blue in there. And then you can actually take a white flour and just like we talked about, that system that it has for transporting, so like a circulatory system, you can put it in there and it will actually turn those petals blue. A lot of times people do this with celery so that you can actually see it going through the celery. But it's super cool, so you can actually do all kinds of colors if you want to try that at home. Like I said, it does take a little while to absorb, and so while it's absorbing that water, it also is going to get the dye and then change the color of the petals. All right, guys, so that is our take on vascular and non-vascular plants. I hope you learned a little something today, and tune back in for some more plant videos next time. Have a good day.